Imagine you see a video online, maybe a voice note pops up, and it's someone you know, or, a politician, a celebrity, doing something really, really weird, or saying something totally out of character. It looks completely real, sounds just like them. But what if it wasn't? What if it was, like, totally fake, cooked up by AI?
Yeah, so convincing, it makes you second-guess everything you see online.
Exactly. So let's do a deep dive into that. Today we're tackling deepfakes. These hyper-realistic bits of digital media. We're talking video, images, even audio created or tweaked with AI.
Right, tweaked to make people look like they said or did something they absolutely never did.
And we've pulled together a bunch of sources for you, articles, some research papers, notes, to really untack this. Our mission here is to get you up to speed, fast on what deepfakes actually are, how they're made, and, well, why they're such a massive topic right now.
Yep, think of it as your quick guide to understanding this whole complex thing. We'll cover the basics, the creation process, the good, the bad, and the really ugly uses.
And also how people are trying to spot them and what rules or, laws are trying to catch up. It's about getting informed on something that's really shifting how we interact with digital stuff.
It is. Cutting through the noise, getting to the core tech, the real impacts we're seeing, and what challenges are still out there.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning then. For someone just hearing this term, maybe they've seen it floating around, deepfake. What exactly is it in simple terms?
Okay, simply put, it's synthetic media. A video, an image, a voice clip where AI has been used to alter or completely replace someone's face, their voice, maybe even their whole body.
So the goal is to make it look or sound like a real person doing something fake, something they didn't actually do.
Precisely. It's not just like simple editing. It's the AI generating this false reality, making the fake seem utterly real.
Gotcha. And the tech behind it. You hear about AI, but what's really driving this?
Well, a lot of the really convincing video stuff relies heavily on something called generative adversarial networks, GANs for short.
Yeah. GANs? Okay, that sounds a bit technical. Break that down.
Sure. Think of it like two AI programs kind of battling it out. You've got one, the generator, whose whole job is to create fake stuff. Let's say a fake video clip.
Okay.
Then you have the other AI, the discriminator. Its job is to look at everything the generator makes and decide, is this real or is this fake?
Ah, okay. Like a detective.
Sort of. So the generator makes a fake, shows it to the discriminator. The discriminator might say, nope, fake. I can tell because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
The generator takes that feedback, learns from it, and tries to make a better fake next time. It keeps iterating, trying to fool the discriminator.
And the discriminator is learning too, getting better at spotting fakes.
Exactly. It gets better at catching even tiny little flaws. So you have this constant cycle where both AIs are pushing each other, making the fakes more and more realistic, and the detection harder and harder.
Wow, like a digital arms race inside the machine.
That's a really good way to put it. And, while this feels super cutting edge, the idea of manipulating media, that's old news. Photo editing's been around forever. Digital effects, too.
Right.
The underlying academic research, stuff in computer vision, machine learning, that goes back to the 90s. It wasn't just conjured out of thin air.
So it evolved from earlier work.
Yeah, definitely. Early stuff on making lip sync to different audio, that kind of thing. The computers got way more powerful. The AI models improved, especially these generative ones. And suddenly, people online, amateurs, started playing with face swapping tech.
And then it took off from there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Industry started using it, researchers.
Yeah.
And, well, unfortunately, so did people with bad intentions.
Okay, so AI is the engine. But how easy is it to actually make one? Can't, anyone do this now?
Well, the sources suggest it's not always just a click of a button, especially if you want something really convincing, something high quality. It often takes quite a bit of data.
Data, like photos and videos.
Exactly. You need a lot of images or video clips of the person you're trying to deepfake. The AI needs all that to learn how they look from different angles, different lighting, how they move.
So the more famous someone is, the easier it might be because there's more footage out there.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But even then, training the AI model, doing the actual swap, it can be pretty time-consuming. And the sources also mention it helps if the target person, the one you're faking, has kind of similar facial features or skin tone to whoever is in the original footage you're using.
Ah, okay. So there are still technical limits. It's not quite magic yet.
Not quite. And yeah, there are specific tools people use. The materials mentioned one called Fake App that got attention a while back, though it was proprietary.
Right.
But now there are open source options like FaceSwap and Deepfakes Lab that are pretty widely used, plus, various web apps that make simpler stuff more accessible to more people.
And that accessibility, that's where the big worries really kick in, isn't it? Let's shift to the dark side. the dangers, the misuse. This is where it gets pretty serious.
Yeah, the sources really hammer this home. The potential for just chaos and harm, the main dangers, confusion, basically, people not knowing what's real, trust in everything digital just eroding, and then the spread of misinformation, obviously, plus huge threats to privacy and security.
Misinformation feels like the big one, the one that could affect, like, society at large.
It's definitely a major concern. Deepfakes are such powerful tools for disinformation because, well, we tend to believe our own eyes and ears,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So the material describes how they can be used to make, say, a politician appear to say something really inflammatory they never actually said. The goal being to sway public opinion, maybe mess with an election, stir up conflict.
Because if you see them say it,
Mhm.
it feels true, even
Yeah.
if it's not.
Exactly. And that realism makes it super hard for regular people to tell fact from fiction, which leads to this general skepticism about all media. Some sources even worry it could push us towards a kind of post-truth world, where even actual evidence is constantly doubted because it could be fake.
Wow. Beyond that sort of public manipulation, there's the really awful personal harm, too.
Oh, absolutely. The sources are clear. Deepfakes get weaponized, used maliciously to harass people, intimidate them, ruin reputations,
Yeah.
just undermine individuals. And one of the most disturbing uses, highlighted again and again, is non-consensual pornography.
Yeah, that's been in the headlines a lot. It sounds horrific.
It is. A huge percentage of the deepfakes out there online are this kind of explicit material made without consent, often targets female celebrities,
Right.
K-pop stars, but it can happen to anyone. It's a gross violation of privacy and, frankly, disproportionately harms women.
That's just terrible. And it's not just adults being targeted, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned education.
Yeah, that was a really concerning finding in the research. Deepfakes are popping up in schools, K-12, universities,
Oh.
kids using them to create fake, often really cruel or humiliating videos or images of their classmates.
No.
Yeah, causing huge social problems, academic disruption. And schools are struggling because, their usual anti-bullying rules might not explicitly cover AI-generated stuff, especially if it's made off campus.
So it's like a new, super high-tech form of bullying. That raises big questions for schools.
It really does. And beyond schools, you just have the general threat of defamation, faking evidence to destroy someone's character or career.
And the money aspect.
Yeah.
There was that one example in the material that just blew my mind.
Oh, the financial crime part. Yes, that's where it gets incredibly tangible.
Yeah.
The sources talk about phishing scams, identity theft, using deepfakes really effectively, and that standout example, criminals using deepfake tech to impersonate a company's CFO and other executives too, in a Zoom meeting.
Wait, a live call? Not just sending a fake video. They faked being them in real time.
According to the sources, yes. This incredibly elaborate scam, using deepfakes to fool people into thinking they were talking to their actual colleagues. It cost the company $25 million.
$25 million from a fake video call? That's almost unbelievable.
It really shows how quickly this tech is being adapted for crime and how sophisticated it can be. Another big area is fake endorsements. You see celebrities, the material mentioned, Taylor Swift, Tom Hanks, Oprah, Elon Musk news anchors, politicians, their faces and voices being used in fake ads.
Ads for what? Like dodgy products?
Yeah, exactly. Fake giveaways, get-rich-quick scams, miracle weight loss stuff, cryptocons. They often mix AI voice cloning with real video clips taken out of context. Makes it look totally legit.
And people fall for it.
Millions of views on some of these scam ads.
Yeah.
They're exploiting the trust people have in these public figures. It's a huge problem.
Man. Okay, and then there was that weird side effect mentioned. Something about blackmail.
Yeah, the blackmail inflation idea.
Right.
That was interesting. The thinking is, because it's getting so easy and cheap to make fake, compromising material really convincing fake stuff, maybe even tons of it, it could actually make real blackmail less effective.
How so?
Well, if anyone caught in a genuinely compromising situation can just say, oh, that's obviously a deep fake, how does the blackmailer prove it's real? It could sort of devalue the whole concept, potentially undermine the blackmailer's threat.
So the sheer volume of fakes might accidentally make real incriminating stuff harder to believe. That is bizarre. Okay, so we've hit a lot of the negatives, and they are definitely scary. But the sources were careful to point out it's not all bad, right? There are potential upsides.
Yes, definitely important to keep that perspective. The tech itself isn't inherently evil. It has real promise, especially in creative fields.
Like what? Where are we seeing the good side?
Well, think about arts, entertainment, film. Deepfakes could be used for creating digital effects, maybe replacing actors or altering appearances in ways that used to need super expensive CGI. Material mentioned Rogue One bringing back characters. Maybe deepfakes could do that kind of thing more easily or realistically down the line.
Oh, like de-aging actors or even bringing back actors who've passed away.
Exactly that kind of thing. Or creating totally synthetic AI actors.
Yeah.
Even animating historical figures or artworks like making the Mona Lisa talk or move just gives artists and storytellers more tools to play with.
That's actually pretty cool. Any other benefits mentioned?
Yeah, the sources pointed to potential uses in education, like, ironically, using a deep fake of someone to explain the dangers of deep fakes, which has been done. Also possibilities for fostering autonomy, self-expression, maybe therapeutic uses down the road. It's a tool.
Right. A powerful tool for good or ill. Which brings us to detection. If these things are getting so good, how on earth do people spot them? It sounds like a nightmare.
It really is described as a constant cat and mouse game. A moving goalpost is the phrase used. Because as soon as detection methods get good at spotting one kind of flaw, the creation tools get updated to fix that flaw.
What worked last month might be useless now.
Pretty much. Early on, you could look for obvious glitches or artifacts. Like, remember the thing about deep fake faces not blinking naturally?
Yeah, I do remember hearing that.
That was an early tell. But the creators figured that out fast. Now, detectors have to look for much subtler things, like facial movements that look just slightly unnatural, weird lighting or reflections that don't quite match the scene, tiny inconsistencies in lip sync, or even missing biological sounds in audio like breaths or little coughs. Sometimes inconsistencies in things like moles or facial hair from frame to frame can be a clue, too.
It sounds like digital forensics, trying to find tiny errors.
That's definitely part of it. And then there's the high-tech side, using AI itself for detection. Machine learning models trained on vast amounts of data to spot patterns that signal fake, patterns a human might never notice. They look at spatial clues, temporal clues, and techniques like liveness detection.
Liveness detection? What's that trying to do? Prove there's a real person.
Basically, yeah. It looks for those subtle biological signs that are really hard to fake perfectly. In audio, maybe tiny variations in pitch, breath sounds, the resonance of a real human voice box. In video, maybe how light reflects uniquely off a real eye.
Wow, that's getting really granular. But how well does it actually work? Are these detectors reliable?
Well, the material gave some interesting stats. There was a big competition, the Deepfake Detection Challenge. The winning AI model, it got about 65% accuracy on their specific test data.
65%. That doesn't sound great. That means it missed over a third of them.
Right. And here's the kicker. They also tested regular people on samples from the same data set. Humans scored somewhere between 69% and 72% accuracy.
Wait, seriously, untrained people were slightly better than the best AI detector in that challenge.
On that particular data set, yeah, it really shows just how hard this problem is and how quickly the fakes are improving. There's a ton of work going on, companies building tools, government research like DARPA's Semaphore program trying to figure out not just if something is fake, but where it came from and why.
Yeah.
Lots of efforts. But yeah, detection alone clearly isn't a silver bullet.
Okay, so we can't just rely on tech to fix a tech problem. What else is happening? What are platforms, governments doing about this?
It's pretty clear from the sources that this needs action on multiple fronts. Tech platforms, legal systems. Everyone's involved.
What are the platforms doing? Social media and stuff.
A lot of them have taken steps, especially against the really harmful stuff, like the non-consensual deepfakes. Reddit banned that infamous deepfake subreddit years back. Gfcat pulled content. Twitter, Discord, they've updated policies, banned accounts. Google's banned involuntary synthetic porn, and apparently even stops people using its free computing resources, Google Colabs, to make deepfakes.
Okay, so trying to deplatform the worst uses. What about laws, regulations?
That's still very much developing, and it's tough because it's a global issue, right? Deepfakes don't respect borders. So existing laws like against defamation, fraud, privacy invasion can sometimes apply, but there's a big push towards specific AI laws too.
Because this is kind of a new category of problem.
Exactly. The sources mention different approaches. Like in the U.S., California has specific laws about deepfake porn and political deepfakes. There's talk at the federal level about national security implications, and even this idea of giving people property rights over their own voice and likeness.
Property rights? Like you own your digital self. That's fascinating.
It is. China, meanwhile, has rules demanding clear labels on synthetic content, with potential criminal charges if you don't comply. India is looking at adding specific chapters to new laws. Europe has its big EU AI Act, which uses a risk-based system, though exactly how deepfakes fit into those risk levels is apparently still being debated.
So it sounds like everyone's scrambling to figure it out, and there's no single answer yet.
Pretty much. And the sources really stress this fundamental tension. How do you encourage innovation because the tech does have good uses while also protecting people and society from all these serious harms? It seems like the answer has to be a mix of things. Laws, tech solutions, and just making people more aware.
Okay, so we've gone from understanding the basics, the tech, the scary stuff, harassment, scams, misinformation, balance that with the creative potential, looked at the detection race, the responses. Which kind of brings us back to the deeper ethical questions this whole thing raises.
Yeah, if you connect all those practical problems back to some basic ethical ideas, like the ones mentioned in the sources regarding AI ethics generally, deepfakes really challenge them head on.
Like consent, you mentioned.
Absolutely, consent and autonomy. Using someone's face, their voice, their identity without permission, especially to harm them. That's a fundamental violation of their right to control their own image, their self-determination.
Make total sense. It's weaponizing their identity.
Then there's the principle of non-maleficence. Basically, do no harm. And we've just spent a lot of time talking about the direct, severe harm. Deepfakes cause harassment, fake porn, scams, undermining trust in society. It's a clear violation.
So the whole dark side discussion really hits that principle hard.
Definitely. And privacy and dignity, too. Creating fake, often degrading images or videos of people. That's a massive privacy invasion. And it's just fundamentally disrespectful to their dignity as human beings.
Yes.
Treating them like digital puppets.
And the last one, trust and fairness.
Yeah, we saw how deepfakes corrode trust in media, in institutions, maybe even in each other. And they enable fundamentally unfair actions, whether it's targeting someone for abuse, rigging public discourse, or cheating people out of money. It attacks the idea of a level playing field for information.
It really shows how this specific tech forces us to grapple with these big, fundamental human questions about rights, truth, responsibility in this digital world. It's not just code, it's about us.
It absolutely is. Those ethical threads run through all the practical challenges.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground today on deepfakes. From the what and how, through the very real dangers and the surprising good side, the struggle to detect them, the attempts to regulate them, and right down to the core ethics.
And I think a really key takeaway from all this material is just how dynamic this all is. It's not a settled issue. The tech keeps evolving, detection keeps chasing it, laws are trying to catch up. It's constantly changing.
Which really brings it back to you listening. What does all this mean for your life online? How do you even navigate this landscape where seeing or hearing isn't necessarily believing anymore?
Yeah, given how good these fakes are getting and how hard they are to reliably detect, the big question the sources leave us mulling over is, how does this need to change how we consume any digital information now?
What responsibility do we each have to be more critical? To maybe try and verify things before we believe them, or especially before we share them? It's a huge challenge, and one that's only going to grow as this technology spreads. Definitely something to think about.